Hi, this is my vlog for day 5, and what I'm experimenting with today is actually doing an audio section. Obviously not looking at a screen, just got my lav microphone on and I'm recording while I'm driving along, so this will just check how much road noise there is from a lav microphone. May have to go to a shotgun microphone if I want to keep doing this. But rather than have a dash type video going, which I think can be too distracting, I can just talk to my lav microphone while basically treating it like a hands-free phone. So what I want to talk about today is that I've received my Fude, if that's the right pronunciation, Japanese pen, which is, Fude is brush, but it's not a brush, it's actually a nib that has an extra bent extension on the end of it, and this gives you the opportunity of either having a broad stroke if you use the full length of the bent piece, or otherwise having a narrow stroke if you're just using the pointy end, if you like to think of it that way. Or otherwise, while you're drawing, you can actually change the amount of nib contact with the paper as you're drawing your line, so you can have, with practice, variable line widths as you're going along. Now, I'm not an artist, but I'd like to include developing an artistic sense, if not an artistic expertise, as I go through my screen minimalized or screen-free life. So I also bought a couple of types of papers. One is I got really a watercolor paper with a rough surface, which was what was recommended for me, so that I've got the rough surface to take the pen nicely, but also a watercolor pad so that I can add colors later on. The other pad I've got is a glossy pad, but that's more for doing some marker work and perhaps using a proper Fude brush type pen, which is like a marker that has a nylon brush end on it, so you can actually use the gloss paper for the brush work. So I'll try both these approaches. In terms of what I'll actually sketch, I like the architectural style of sketching, and so one of the books I showed earlier in my vlog was Drawing in Italy, which was someone's drawing as I went through Italy and captured all the various architectural styles there. I've got a similar one by a Chinese artist that was a documentation of more American architecture. So I'll give that a try. The other thing I thought would be fun to do is sketch my dogs, see how I go with that. They get lots of cute expressions and end up lying in funny positions, sprawled out over their beds with their head hanging over the edge, so I might be able to get some interesting drawings from them. So what I'll do, as well as having the audio, I'll overlay some related photos and use the Burns effect, which is the zooming and panning of photographs to put a bit of life and focus into still images over an audio. Now I'll practice my visceral language. Probably up till now I've sounded a bit nasal, which may also be the ambience of the car plus a lav microphone, but I'll just do some of the exercises to see how that changes. One of the main points he makes is that one of the reasons for having a higher, croakier, raspier voice is that we, particularly when we're doing a performance or a public performance, we tend to tense our throat muscles, which changes the quality of our voice. So part of his exercises relate to relaxing your throat and voice cords so that it changes the nature of your speech. And quite a few apparently sports presenters and television presenters go through some throat relaxation exercises before they actually appear on screen. So I'll give that a go. What he tends to do is hold your jaw open with a finger just on your lower teeth and make a deep relaxed noise with your throat. So I'll try that and then I'll see how I go. The other thing the visceral language teaches is that the idea of stature, which just means adopting an approach which of body language which will trigger a difference in the way you present yourself. So the idea is that you have a little thread coming out of the top of your head, and that's lifted up so that you have an erect but relaxed posture. And then you take what he calls a loving breath. So this isn't just a deep gulping of air, but it's more just letting your breath and your body, if you like, become as one. That's my interpretation, as a relaxing action. So now I have my stature, I've done my loving breath, I'll do my exercise. Now, having done that, perhaps my quality of voice has changed. The other thing I need to do is to focus my visualization of my words or my sentences so that I can see where the pauses are, the punctuations. However, I don't really want to fall into the trap, I think, of being overly pausey, if that's a word. So what I'll try and do is practice doing annotations of some people's speeches that I enjoy, to try and mimic or to follow their example of how they're phrasing and emphasizing their words. And then I can have a comparison between their presentation and my presentation. So I'll try that with some of my vlogs as well. There's a few people that I enjoy listening to. From the older TV days, there was Carl Sagan in his Cosmos Theory series. And the other series I liked from its voice presentation was Bronowski doing The Ascent of Man. That was always, for me, a very engaging and also a very passionate presentation by Bronowski. So if I could talk that way, I'd be very happy. Now, I'm still wrestling with the question of what constitutes a screen and what's fair game in a screen-free life or a screen-minimalized life. The approach I'm taking is that a screen-free life is actually an evolved higher technology life where we'll be using audio much more than we have been in the past. It's almost a bit of a back to the future idea of, in the past when we had real assistants and people doing specialist types of work, then you dictated and you got used to dictating, or you set out a task verbally to someone who had the skills to actually actualize that as a completed skilled task. But in some ways, the savings that were made with the automation of offices was to empower people in one view, or de-skill people is another view, by giving them a lot of what might have been previously considered grunt work of the mechanics of the office, instead of being handed off to others who had a specialized skill. So instead of giving your typing to a really fast typist by dictating, or instead of giving your brochures to a graphic designer who had a lot of fine art skills in graphic design, a lot of that, I think, was pushed back to the original people, so that you actually had less skilled people doing the work, perhaps bringing the work closer to the actual person with the investment in it might have been a good thing and improved the nature of the work. But it was a mixed blessing because it in some ways removed the specializations in the office, which contributed a lot to old time efficiency. And this might be the reason that when automated systems were brought into the office, in fact, it was a bit hard to demonstrate a clear advantage in terms of productivity, but it did democratize access to the instruments. So previously you might have only had particular people allowed to brief a graphic designer on what type of brochure or presentation they wanted, whereas now pretty well anyone can sit down and do their own presentation, which is good in some ways and maybe not so good in other ways. So thank you for watching this, and you can subscribe by clicking on the red subscribe button and then also clicking the little bell, and you'll get a notification of my vlogs. So see you another day. Bye for now.